Right now on the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So really thank you guys so much to every single one of you for supporting me, my family, my friends, teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all. Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I use
Right now on the National Weather Desk, cold and ice from Texas to the nation's midsection. Winter's wrath leaves roads and pretty much everything else covered in ice.
Dealing with freezing rain, sleet, and even a little bit of snow here.
We have team coverage from the south to New York. Also, why where you live in your time zone could be connected to your risk of being in a deadly crash.
An apparent connection between misaligned time zone boundaries and a heightened risk of death on the roads.
We'll take a closer look at why hot water freezes faster than cold water.
Logistically, this makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it's totally counterintuitive.
And our social meteorology class is in session. Are you ready to learn more about how the weather impacts you?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The bitter blast striking the South and Midwest is still an issue this morning. The threat of ice and freezing rain as far south as Texas will likely continue into tomorrow morning. Scenes like this one playing out all day yesterday. A semi-truck losing control on a highway, sliding into the median right there before finally coming to a stop. Black ice and freezing bridges caused problems in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. As night fell across the South, many roads that were still wet quickly froze. In Tennessee, ice also clinging to the trees, clinging to signs, stoplights, and pretty much anything else. The ice threat here continues into tomorrow. And checking the roads in North Texas, you can see there is still plenty of snow and ice, especially, along the sides. This is State Highway 114 just west of Dallas. People are still taking their time this morning trying to navigate, as you can see, those slick roads. This morning, we have extensive team coverage of the storm and the impact from Texas to New York and multiple cities in between. We start with conditions in Austin, Texas, and reporter Fred Cantu.
Yes, the weather conditions have worsened here in the Austin area. We have Freezing rain falling, and it is accumulating on the trees. That's falling on the power lines. The weight of the trees is increasing so rapidly that this particular branch next to me was at eye level an hour ago, and now it's this far down. Yes, this is falling onto the power lines and leaving people without power in huge numbers. That's the problem right now. The schools have closed, and also a major highway through this area also closed because of the ice that is building up.
The storm also hit Memphis, Tennessee, and the surrounding region. We're talking really hard here. This is I-40 in eastern Arkansas, where heavy sleet and freezing rain made travel treacherous. Several trucks crashed on the road. You can see the sleet and ice. The plows are plowing to the side of this road right here. As the sun went down, anything that was still wet quickly froze, making travel even more difficult. And the ice storm warnings, they remain until 6 tomorrow morning. The National Weather Desk storm chaser Britta Dare was in Memphis last night.
Ice storm warning now in effect until Thursday morning, and we've been dealing with icing here all evening, afternoon, and through the night tonight, dealing with freezing rain, sleet, and even a little bit of snow here. The trees behind me are caked up quite a bit. You can see with that icing, it's breaking there really thick, 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch of icing there, and we've been dealing with that most of the afternoon today, and we're going to continue to deal with that overnight, and we're going to deal with that Wednesday and possibly into early Thursday.
And so how long will the cold and ice really stick around? Meteorologist Todd Jacobian is tracking the storm in Little Rock, Arkansas.
There will be more ice throughout Texas. The further north you go, you run into freezing sleet and then snowfall up towards the north. But Wednesday morning, that continues across much of the Lone Star State through noon. We're getting a break in Arkansas, but we still got wintry weather in Oklahoma. By 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Wednesday, rain, but it will quickly go over to freezing rain as temperatures cool Wednesday night and into Thursday. So freezing rain and sleet in Arkansas, with it continuing with a major winter storm and ice storm out in Texas and into Oklahoma. Now, the main upper level dynamics with this will begin to swing out from the west, and you got freezing rain and sleet continuing over Arkansas through Thursday morning. But after that, it lifts out, and conditions will improve by the end of the week.
And in West Texas, winter weather caused a 12-car pileup Tuesday on Interstate 10. The Texas Department of Transportation says semi-trailers and cars were involved in this crash, and there were multiple reports of injuries. Leanna Golden has more.
It's like, oh my God, like what is going on? Like, what am I going into? Eventually, we all just ended up stopping for some reason.
This was the reason. A 12-car pileup on the interstate just past Van Horn at the I-10-I-20 split. Texas state troopers say icy conditions are to blame for what appears to be truck after truck just slammed into one another, veering off roadways into the frosted ground and completely smashing smaller cars. After a few hours at a complete standstill on her way to Midland, Vargas called it and turned back towards El Paso. She captured this line of all the backup on the other side.
I guess a lot of people didn't know there was an accident actually happening until later.
In this video, you can see the intense haze and cloud cover hanging low in the sky, headlights barely visible as drivers try to keep control.
My windshield started to get all icy.
TxDOT and DPS are urging drivers to stay off the roads during these dangerous conditions.
Well, the storm is still causing big problems for air travel. In Dallas, 70% of arrivals and departures at DFW are canceled. As far much as 58% from Love Field, 38% of departures from Austin are also canceled. So before heading to the airport, you may want to check with your airline. The storm is also causing big problems on the ground as well. This is Oklahoma City, where a driver rolled his pickup after hitting black ice on a bridge. Luckily, no one was injured. Now watch here, the top left of your screen. An Oklahoma state trooper captured this, a semi losing control on a slick bridge. The truck, you can see it there, goes into the median, then back onto I-40 before coming to a rest. The cable barrier kept the truck from sliding into oncoming traffic. The driver here was ticketed for traveling at a speed not reasonable and proper for road conditions. Now to Cincinnati, where salt trucks and plows, they were out on the street on Tuesday. They were clearing the roads. Several roads were closed during the Tuesday morning commute, but brighter skies are on the way. No snow or freezing rain for today, but the high there still cold, just hovering near freezing. Finally, New York City is getting some snow that is actually sticking. The Big Apple getting its first measurable snowfall of the season. And with that, the streak is over. The Big Apple broke the record this year for going without measurable snow. And now to Maryland, also seeing its first measurable snow of the season. Just under half an inch fell across most of the state, with temperatures rising to about 40 degrees today. Most of that snow will actually melt sometime during today. Now, we talk a lot about, snowstorms and blizzards, but the type of ice storms we have been talking about today can actually be so much more dangerous. Meteorologist Emily Gracie explains.
Blizzards can be terrifying, no doubt. They impact travel, visibility, and can cause dangerous wind chills. But ice storms, even minor ones, can be much more detrimental. To understand why, let's first take a look at how it happens. Freezing rain is precipitation that falls in the form of rain in a column of air above 32 degrees. It stays liquid until it reaches Earth's surface. Now, if that surface is below the freezing mark, it's going to freeze on contact. So this is much more common at the end of winter or early spring when the atmosphere is starting to warm up a bit, but the ground is still cold because it had all winter to cool down. Here's why freezing rain is worse than snow. It's super heavy, so even a very small amount of freezing rain can snap trees and cause widespread power outages. While snow can be plowed, ice removal is much more difficult. Ice can be hard to see, and often what looks like just a wet road can actually be a sheet of black ice. Freezing rain may fall before a changeover to snow, causing a hidden layer of ice under a blanket of snow. So next time you wake up and look out your window to what looks like a busted snow forecast, remember it may actually be a less picturesque but much more dangerous environment to venture out in. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, how do time zones influence car crashes? Some experts are looking into this. And when it's bitterly cold, people always throw boiling water in the air and watch it freeze. We'll tell you why it only works with boiling water as bitter cold continues to grip parts of the nation. Here's a look at scenes from Wequiak Falls, just outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Temperatures this morning are starting in the teens. By afternoon, we're in the 20s. I think a decent day. Some areas will make into the 30s with a fairly light wind. We have one more decent day on Thursday before things really start to change. Notice temps in the 20s and 30s on Thursday. That's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That is an Arctic cold front. That Arctic cold front moves through Thursday night into Friday with the potential for a snow shower or squall. More importantly, the coldest air mass in at least 5 years arrives in the Northeast Friday into Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Going to be starting off maybe with a couple of slick spots over portions of Virginia as well as Delmarva and Maryland as some flurries and snow showers exit eastbound. Outside of that, it's going to be kind of a chilly day, at least seasonably so, with high temperatures within a couple of degrees of 40. Near normal temperatures, that's going to be giving way to some sunshine, too, during the afternoon as our latest weather maker moves away. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Looks like cool temperatures up around Nashville and Tupelo. A little bit of clouds and still some trailing showers from the front that's pushing through the region. Raleigh looking at 45 degrees. Area of low pressure will continue to track north. Looks like we're seeing temperatures in the 60s. You get down south on I-75 and I-95. You're seeing warmer temperatures, of course, down in parts of Florida. Plenty of sunshine, temperatures in the lower 80s. So it looks like we're going to see that warm air stick around until a frontal boundary pushes across the Gulf. It's going to drop temperatures down towards parts of Florida through the weekend.
Now let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. Snowfall overnight, but today will be partly cloudy. In Mackinac City, Michigan, clouds and sun, a high of 19 degrees. And also now let's go to sun and clouds. It's in Ebensburg, where you're looking at it right there. Pennsylvania will reach 26 degrees today. Overcast in San Antonio, freezing rain is possible in some spots. Today's high will reach around 37. Here's a big question. Can a time zone change save lives? That's what researchers at one university argue in a new study. After examining 12 years of data, they're pushing for the Texas Panhandle to be moved from Central to Mountain Time Zone. Mitchell Downing talked to them about their findings.
We found an apparent connection between misaligned time zone boundaries and a heightened risk of death on the roads.
Here is a map presented by the researchers. The areas in yellow fall in what they call natural time zones, and the areas in blue fall in eccentric time zones.
People who live in these eccentric time localities, such as West Texas besides El Paso, die at a higher rate than people who live in what we'd call natural time areas.
They found the same thing in every time zone across the country. According to the study, people living in what they call the eccentric time zones have a 22% higher chance of dying in a crash.
Midland, Odessa's vehicle fatality rate is double the national average, and 3 times higher than El Paso. El Paso is in the Mountain Time Zone, the only part of Texas in the Mountain Time Zone.
Dr. Jeff Gentry says the main reason for this is because people in Amarillo and most of West Texas are forced to rise before dawn for much of the year, disrupting normal sleep patterns and their natural circadian rhythms. The researchers have a few recommendations about how they think the problem could be solved.
One, the better one, is to move time zone boundaries east. If everywhere west of Dallas we're in what we now call mountain time, and we say if we're not willing to go to that policy level, at least schools and businesses in Amarillo should consider moving their start times to 8:30 rather than 8 o'clock.
You know, every time there's a deep freeze, people love to head outside with pots of boiling water and watch it freeze as they throw it up into the air. But why hot water? That's because it actually freezes faster than cold water. It's a scientific process, and Emily Gracie recently spoke to an expert about how it was discovered.
Basically, the idea that hot water will freeze faster than cold water.
And how did this come about?
It has kind of been around for a really long time. There are writings from Aristotle about it that kind of talk about how fishermen, ice fishermen, used to cut a hole in the ice and then stick their reed into the ice, and then they would pour hot water around that reed so that it would freeze in place. It's named the Mpemba effect after a actual high school student who is from Tanzania, and his class was making ice cream. So all his classmates kind of waited for their boiling mixtures to cool down before putting them in the freezer, whereas Erasto Mpemba took his boiling milk mixture and put it right into the freezer. And when they opened the freezer and they kind of they got their ice cream out of the freezer, his was frozen and everyone else's was still liquid. He was like, how does this happen? And he teamed up with someone from a university nearby, and they ended up writing a full scientific paper about it.
So what is the science behind this? Because logistically, this makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it's totally counterintuitive. And that's what makes it so interesting. So really, the Mpemba effect is saying that if you start with more energy in your particle, you can skip around more and you'll more quickly fall into that solid ice well.
Does it happen in the opposite? So if I'm going to boil water on my stove, should I fill the pot with cold water or hot water?
So it does happen in the opposite direction. That kind of idea has been proven relatively recently with the single particle experiment. It's a little bit less noticeable in the reverse direction. So, I mean, if you want to boil some cold water, it might be a little bit faster, but in reality, it's probably not going to be something you'd actually notice.
You know, head over to YouTube for a longer version of this interview where Ashley discusses how this is being test it with different liquids. Search the National Weather Desk and you'll find the uncut version of all of our interviews. Well, our 200 meteorologists across the country are always posting great information we call on social media, so we're going to look at a few of the latest posts in a segment that, we call Social Meteorology. We start in Providence, Rhode Island, where meteorologist Christina Ernie explaining a phenomenon called Spindrift.
You can file this one under Nature is Cool. Here in southern New England, we had high winds and gale warnings, and these two things together create what's called a spindrift. It's when the crests or the tops of the waves are sheared off by those high winds, and you can see from this picture below just how cool it looks, and this is a favorite because you can see that rainbow. Here's another example, and another example of that spindrift with a lighthouse.
How long do you think it takes a snowflake to reach the ground? So let's say the snowflakes are falling from the clouds, which are about 10,000 feet aloft, which 10,000 feet is approximately 1.9 miles. And the speed of a snowflake falling is on average about 2 miles per hour, which means it's going to take about an hour for that snowflake to travel from the cloud all the way to the ground.
Yep, believe it or not, there are 4 different types of winter weather because weather's complicated. We're going to use the cookie to describe temperatures above 32 degrees, and we're going to use the cream to describe temperatures below 32 degrees. Here are the 4 types of winter weather. Our top, cookie, and cream, that's the upper layer of the atmosphere. On the bottom, that's the surface where we're at. On the left, we have rain because all 4 layers are represented by temperatures above 32, so it's a cold rain. Just next to that, one step over, it's freezing rain. We have snowflakes falling because temperatures are below 32, but just above the surface, we have a warm column of air that melts those snowflakes. And then at the surface, it's below 32. Those raindrops are super cooled, so when they hit the surface, they freeze on contact, and that's what gives us our icing or our freezing rain. Beside that, sleet, where we have frozen precipitation that melts a little higher up in the atmosphere, and then the air is colder just below that, so they have time to freeze once again. Those create our sleet pellets. And then to the right, it's all snow, baby. Temperatures below 32 all the way through the atmosphere. So there you have it, the 4 types of winter weather. Ain't science sweet?
And it's not just our meteorologists we turn to for great weather content. We also get great stuff from you, the viewers. If you want to share your weather content with us, just head over to the station's website and look for the Chime In tab. Here's a recent video we got from Steve Douglas showing animals enjoying a rare snowfall in Amarillo, Texas.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. For the day today, we've got a lot of 20s and 30s for high temperatures. So kind of a chilly day, but most of the Midwest staying dry today with a decent amount of sunshine thanks to some high pressure. Same for the day tomorrow, but colder air will start moving into the north there. Only a high of 1 on Thursday in Bismarck, and that colder air continues to move in for a lot of us on Friday with some lake effect snow.
Well, a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast across the region today. And, of course, we continue with the winter storm, ice storm warnings in effect, winter weather advisories, flood watch. It's a very active stretch as we continue to watch patches of freezing rain and some sleet across the region. Cold rain as you work towards the Gulf Coast. Thursday, lingering rain, but we're starting to move away from the winter weather and improving across the region with highs in Texas back into the 50s and 60s.
Well, hi there and good Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. It's the first day of February. We're starting to warm up and brighten up here on the West Coast. Look at the 60s back around coastal California and LA and San Diego. Not so warm, though, in the interior of Utah. 31 today around the Great Salt Lake. Partly sunny skies around Seattle and Portland, but the next weather maker on the way, a big front marching toward the Pacific Northwest as we close out the work week. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
An ice storm is leaving its mark across portions of the south. Just west of Memphis, significant icing snapped trees and power poles and left traffic on Interstate 40 backed up for miles. In Arkansas, the red of a northern cardinal stands out against the ice-covered branches. And in Tulsa, these two dogs quickly decided they'd rather be inside than out in the snow and on the ice-covered porch.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Here are some cold weather photos and videos we're seeing this week on Chime In. These sun rays may look hot, but it's definitely not. It's cold along Wisconsin's Point Beach. Tuesday's high was 11 degrees, the low 0. Today it's warming up with expected highs of 20 degrees. This light snow fell in Amarillo this week. Temperatures were pretty frigid, though. The high only 28 degrees. And this viewer from our Tulsa, Oklahoma area submitted this photo of icicles that formed on her front yard. Now, we love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code in the bottom left corner of your screen. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Coming up tomorrow, you'll learn about different precipitation types. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.